Yes, sir. Anybody that goes into the plant to work, whether you be a contractor or a Doe Run employee, has to go through training before you're allowed to go into the plant.
Okay. And is there any kind of special equipment that Mr. Rodgers was issued in order to be able to work in the plant?
Yes, sir. Doe Run provides basically everything you need to wear out in the plant. They provide coveralls, full face respirators, hard hats, latex gloves, leather palm gloves. Basically, any protective equipment that you would need is supplied by Doe Run.
And how do you use the specifically the coveralls, the latex gloves, the boots? How do you use those things to keep yourself from being exposed to harmful chemicals?
You remove your street clothing, we call it, the clothes you actually wear to work. You place the coveralls on, and then you wear your protective PPE, such as your rubber gloves, your leather palm gloves, to keep anything from coming in contact with the skin. You wear the respirators to keep lead, dust, or anything from coming in contact with your lungs.
What's PPE mean?
Personal protective equipment.
And are there some things that an employee can do to keep dust and other chemicals from going up the sleeves of their coveralls and their jumpsuits?
Yes, sir. A lot of times employees will take duct tape and they will duct tape the sleeves of the coveralls and around the cuffs of the pants of the coveralls to keep anything from getting up inside.
Is the duct tape an official part of the training?
No, sir. That's something that basically you learn when you're out in the plant. You see other employees do it and you learn from that.
Is that something you've done when you've worked in the plant?
Yes, sir. Many times.
Now, I'm guessing that once you put on your PPE, as you call it, your blue suit, your gloves, respirators, boots, and you go out into the plant to do your day's work and then come back after work, do you just go home with your blue suit on and your boots and your respirator and all the stuff you were working with out in the plant?
No, sir. Those items are not allowed to be taken out of the plant.
So, what do the employees do? What are the procedures to do when you come back in from working and you're contaminated, your suit's contaminated, your clothing is contaminated? What are the employees supposed to do before they go home?
The first thing you do is when you come back into what we call the change house, which is where the showers and things are located, you have to put on a pair of blue booties over your boots or shoes to keep the contamination out of the building. At that time, as soon as you enter, there is a window where you can receive new coveralls or clean coveralls to put on. When you go up to your locker, you take your dirty coveralls off. There is a special bin to place the dirty coveralls in, and you must shower before you leave the plant. That is a law.
How many? Well, let me ask you this. So, if you're at your locker changing out of your dirty suit, do you change into your clean suit there at the same locker?
No, sir. There's actually two sides to this locker room. There is what we call a dirty side, which is where you would keep your dirty boots, hard hat, anything, tools, anything that's been out into the plant. At that time, you go over to your clean side locker after you shower, and that's where your clean clothes are kept that you place back on when you go home.
Okay, so each worker has two different lockers that they use?
Yes, sir.
Let me show you, Madam Clerk, what's been previously entered into evidence as States Exhibits 36A through O. I have here, Mr. Conway, 36A through O. And if you could thumb through these photographs for me and tell me if you recognize them.
Yes, sir. These are pictures of the entryway into the Doe Run change house. There's pictures of the clean and dirty side lockers. There's also pictures of gray duct tape that was placed over the lockers when I was contacted to do so. That has my initials, the date, and the time when I placed the tape on. And there's also pictures of what was found inside the lockers. There's pictures of the hallway where the dirty side lockers are, which has the bins that I spoke of before, where you place your dirty coveralls. There's a close-up of the bin with the dirty coveralls in it. And it shows the area where you wash your hands and clean up before you actually go to the break room or before you proceed to your clean side locker. There is a picture of dirty boots that were left over at Doe Run. People was either left. Some of those boots are reused by people if they need them. And there's also pictures of clean side lockers. And there's a picture of what I believe would be Jimmy Rodgers' locker with his things in it. It would be his dirty side locker.
Okay, let's show these to the jury. I'll give you a laser pointer here, and I'll just go quickly through them one by one, and you can show the jury what you were talking about, okay?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, we'll start first with, in no particular order, with 36-0. And for the record, Your Honor, I'm displaying on the courtroom projector here 36-0. Upside down. Okay. Okay, what's depicted in 36-0, Mr. Conway?
This is a picture of the dirty side locker. I can tell this by the dirty hard hat. There's a pair of dirty rubber boots in the bottom. These are the dirty clothes that were actually worn out into the plant. When you come back up, you put all this stuff in your dirty side locker.
Okay. And so basically when you're done with this locker, whenever you're coming to or from this locker, you're either undressed or partially undressed.
That's correct.
All right. Now you mentioned that you had put gray tape over a locker. Whose locker did you put gray tape over?
That would be Jimmy Rodgers' locker.
And you were preserving the locker for law enforcement to come search it?
That's correct.
Is this his dirty side locker or his clean side locker?
I believe that to be the clean side locker.
Okay. All right, now you mentioned that there was a pile of boots and other items. I'm showing you for the record 36M, and for the record the previous photo of the locker was 36N. 36M is in Michael. Can you tell me tell the jury what's depicted in 36 Michael?
These are used boots that were left at Doe Run. A lot of these boots are recycled. As you can tell, they're used boots by the blue booties that must be placed on boots when you first come in the building. Those boots are generally either recycled or disposed of at a later date.
Okay. And so these boots can't go over into the clean side?
No, sir.
Okay, so the dirt and stuff that you can visibly see in the picture is contaminated dirt from the plant?
Yes, it is contaminated mostly with lead.
I'll show you 36L. You mentioned earlier that there's an area where folks are supposed to clean up and wash their hands.
Yes, sir. That's what this area right here is. That's to wash your hands. We recommend you wash at least up to your elbows before you go to break. It's also recommended you wash your face in an attempt to remove any contaminants from your body.
What are one of the ways that employees can potentially get lead into their bodies?
There's two ways basically to get lead into your bodies. One is to inhale it into your lungs. Another way is to have it on your hands or on something that's placed in your mouth and to swallow it.
And that's why they wear the respirators and why you want them washing their hands before they go to eat.
That's correct.
I'll show you 36K. Is that one of the coverall bins there in 36K?
Yes, sir. That is a bin of dirty coveralls.
And what happens with those coveralls after they go into the dirty coverall bin?
They are sent out to an outside source to be cleaned, sterilized, and sent back to the plant to be reused.
So when the coveralls come back to the plant, they're free of lead and the other contaminants?
Yes, sir.
I'll show you 36J. What's 36J?
That is a picture of the dirty side hallway. These are some dirty side lockers. These are the bins we were speaking of where you place your dirty coveralls into after they've been worn in the plant.
Okay, so it's literally like a locker room, a locker area like what you would see at a football stadium or a gym.
Yeah, yes, sir, that's correct.
I have 36I. What's in 36I?
That is a picture of one of the dirty side lockers that Jimmy used. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. I believe that's one of the clean side lockers that had some of his things in it. He actually had a couple different lockers at the Doe Run plant, which was nothing unusual.
And when you say Jimmy, are you referring to Jimmy Rodgers?
Yes, sir.
And I'm not going to do every photograph, but I'll show you 36C. For the record, I'm displaying 36C. What's that?
That is a picture of the clean side hallway and lockers. From you come in from the M3, this is where our clean side lockers were. Some right here, and then this first row of blue lockers right there were JB lockers.
I see that this locker area looks a little different from the dirty side locker area.
Yes, sir. It's a lot cleaner on that side.
Okay, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit number 44, the big box.
44 wasn't admitted.
Okay.
I have 49. 44 was the sample.
Excuse me. This is 44, 49. Okay. Now, during the week preceding Sunday, June 29th of 2015, thank you, did Mr. Rodgers, we'll strike that, let's deal with 44 first, then we'll talk about Mr. Rodgers. Well, this time I'm going to show the witness what's been previously identified as State's Exhibit number 44. This is the stadium jumpsuit. I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 44. If I can borrow the court scissors, I'd like to assist the witness in opening the box.
There you go, Hunter.
Thank you.
You would.
Okay. State's Exhibit number 44. Goes right there. All right. State's Exhibit number 44 has a couple of things inside of it. If you could take a look inside, first of all, the paper bag, and tell me what's inside the paper bag. Thank you.
This is a pair of the blue coveralls that Doe Run issues to the workers to wear outside in the plant.
Did you actually give, with Doe Run's permission, did you actually give law enforcement some blue coveralls?
Yes, sir, I did.
Are those the blue coveralls you gave them?
Yes, sir.
There's also in State's Exhibit 44, there's a blue box with some blue latex gloves in there.
Yes,
And you're
sir.
holding that up. What is that?
These are the rubber latex gloves that are provided by Doe Run to wear over your hands and underneath your leather palm gloves.
And is there a set of leather palm gloves that you also provided?
Yes, there are.
And you're holding those up. And,
Yes, sir.
And so you provided the blue suits, the leather palm gloves, and the latex gloves.
Yes, sir.
And those suits are clean suits, right? You're not being exposed to chemicals right now coming off the suits, right?
No, sir. Those are clean.
All right, Your Honor, at this time I would admit what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 44 and evidence as State's 44.
No objection.
Showed admitted.
Can you go ahead and pull out, I think there's more than one blue suit. If you want to pull one out and hold that up, and I'll assist. Okay, and I'll take that from you so I can hold the whole thing here, down here. I reckon I'm finishing the blue suit from State's Exhibit number 44. And you're also publishing one as well. Can you flip that around, please? Okay, and then we can roll it up and stick it back in the bag here. And stick everything else back in the box. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, turning your attention to the week prior to Sunday, June 28th of 2015. Was Mr. Rodgers working for JV Contracting at that time?
Yes, sir, he was.
And were you his supervisor at that time, or one of his supervisors?
Yes, sir.
At some point during that week, did Mr. Rodgers contact you about needing some time off?
Yes, sir, he did.
Do you recall when?
I believe it was the first part of that week.
So if Sunday was the 28th, was it the previous Monday or Tuesday of that week?
Yes, sir, I believe that to be correct.
Okay, so that would have been what, the 22nd or 23rd?
Yes, I believe so.
And what did Mr. Rodgers tell you about needing some time off?
He said that he was going to go to Florida to meet up with his brother, who had recently graduated law school, and they were going to celebrate the fact that he had graduated law school.
At some point, to your knowledge, did you give Jimmy Mr. Rodgers? I apologize, sir. Did you give Mr. Rodgers the time off he was requesting?
Yes, sir, basically we did.
And at some point during the weekend of the 28th, did you have some contact with Mr. Rodgers?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what was the purpose of contacting with him?
I hadn't realized that he was still out of town. I had contacted him on Sunday evening to let him know that I didn't need him to work at Doe Run the following Monday, which would have been the next day, but that we needed him to work as a laborer with the roofing crews for our company.
And did you get a response when you contacted him? Did he respond?
Yes, sir, he did.
What was his response?
His response was, I'm still in Florida.
And the only thing he told you that he was doing in Florida was celebrating or seeing his brother who graduated from law school.
That's correct.
I'll show you what's been previously entered as State's Exhibits number 49 A, B, and C. I'm going to show you 49 A, B, and C. Actually, they're in there, so I'm just going to put them up here. I'll start with 49B. Now, it appears to me that the date on this message is, let me zoom this in so everybody can see it. Sunday, June 28th. Is that when you contacted Mr. Rodgers about the roofing job?
Yes, it was.
And for the record, just to be sure, 49B is a picture of your cell phone,
Yes, it is. It was my company issued cell phone at the time.
and you let detectives take a picture of it.
Yes, sir, I did.
And I'll just go ahead and move this up. You got a response from Jimmy, from Mr. Rodgers. I'm sorry, from Mr. Rodgers. What was the response?
I'm in Florida still.
And then you wanted to know who's Tyler?
Tyler Juliet is the owner of JB Contracting.
So he was your boss.
Yes, correct, yes.
So you wanted to know if Mr. Rodgers had told Tyler that he was still out of town.
That's correct.
And then Mr. Rodgers responded, I don't think so.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And then there was another message, Tuesday the 30th at 10:30. Mr. Rodgers texted you
Yes.
and said he was working Thursday.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And I'm guessing State's Exhibit number 49C is a continuation of that message. At the bottom of the page there.
Yes.
Scroll this back down. Okay. So 49C is also a picture of your phone.
That's correct.
And then you also let the detectives take a picture of your contact information for Mr. Rodgers.
That's correct.
You actually had his phone number stored in your phone.
Yes, I did.
All right, I'll show you 49A. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
What was Mr. Rodgers' cell phone number?
Can you zoom that in a little bit? It's hard for me to see from
Yes,
here.
sir.
My eyes are not the best anymore.
Yes, sir. How's that?
That's very good. It says contact Jimmy Rodgers, mobile number 573-864-1179.
And this was the number that was your contact number for Mr. Rodgers?
Yes, it was.
And when you called him on that number, he answered or
Yes.
texted?
That's correct, yes.
Did Mr. Rodgers, after that weekend out of town, as he says, while visiting with his brother, did Mr. Rodgers return to work at Doe Run?
Yes, he did.
So let's talk a little bit more about the suits, that the blue suits that the workers use in the plant. First of all, is there any limit on the number of suits you can get?
No, sir.
Why not?
They recommend you change as often as you need to, or as often as you feel like you're contaminated to the point that you want to change and put on a clean uniform.
Is it important to Doe Run to keep the employees from contaminating themselves with toxins?
Yes, sir. Very important.
Are suits allowed to be taken home?
No, sir.
Did folks sometimes take suits home?
Yes, sir. It has happened.
When folks come to work in the morning and they go into the clean side locker to change out of their street clothes and put on their work clothes, are there suits available for them there in the clean side locker?
You pick them up either in the morning when you get there. You can go downstairs basically from the contractor's locker room area and get a clean pair of coveralls. Or when you come into the plant at the end of the day, if you would like, you can get a clean pair of coveralls to take back upstairs with you to your locker.
Do you have to trade in a dirty suit to get a clean suit?
No, sir.
So you can walk up and get as many suits as you need?
Yes.
And at this time, I did move to admit 44. I did admit 44.
So,
Okay. Your Honor, I tender the witness.
defense.
Good morning, Mr. Conway.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Good, thank you. Now, do you work for Doe Run or for JV Contracting?
At the present time, I work for Doe Run. I have recently switched over about a year and a half from JV Contracting and took a job with the Doe Run company.
Okay. Back in June of 2015, were you working for Mr. Juliet at JV Contracting?
Yes, I was.
Were you assigned to Doe Run? Was that your primary assignment?
Yes, it was.
Did you look over or oversee and maintain strictly the workers from Mr. Juliet at Doe Run when
Yes.
you employed? Okay. So you weren't working for Doe Run at that time?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You indicated that Mr. Rodgers worked for Mr. Juliet as a laborer, correct?
That is correct.
And did he work steady every single day at Doe Run?
There was times when we didn't need the actual laborers at Doe Run, and he might have worked with one of the other crews at JV.
Okay, and what was that business? What kind of other crews did Mr. Juliet have?
We have concrete crews that pour foundations, sidewalks, things like that. At that time, we had roofing crews that did roofs. We also did exterior sidings, basically any kind of general construction.
Okay. About how many of Mr. Juliet's laborers were routinely assigned to Doe Run,
It varied at any given time.
depending on the work that was needed at the plant?
That's correct.
And the workers that came in and worked at Doe Run for Mr. Juliet and for yourself, did they do a variety of jobs?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Did Mr. Rodgers do a variety of jobs there?
He mostly worked in the what we considered the BDC area. That's where they shred the batteries.
Was he a reliable worker for you?
Yes, he was.
Was he a good worker for you?
Yes, I'd say so.
Okay. Were you aware of whether Mr. Rodgers was trying to get on full-time with Doe Run?
I wasn't aware of it, but it wouldn't be unusual.
A lot of the workers go in and switch over from JV contracting full-time being with the plant,
That's true, yes.
including yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Is money a little better when you go with the plant rather than the contractor?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. Now these, when Doe Run, since you've worked for both, when Doe Run hires people specifically, do they have their own training program for people working in the plant?
Yes, they do. They hire, or they train their own people, and they also conduct a training for the contractors that come into the plant.
But that's a separate training?
Yes, it is.
Is that primarily videotapes, OSHA videotapes, things like that?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And is there a way to certify whether employees have been through that?
Yes, Doe Run kept records of who was trained and who was not.
You and Mr. Juliet didn't keep those records?
I also kept track because once a year we had to renew our training, so I kept a list and dates of when people went to training.
Okay. In fact, also, part of the requirements that they're taught in training is that they have to get their blood tested one time a month. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And they also have to have a physical once a year.
That is correct.
Okay. And what's the purpose of those two things?
The blood draws once a month is to check your lead levels to make sure you're not getting overly contaminated with lead. The physicals once a year is basically a physical just to make sure you're in good enough shape to be able to perform the work duties.
Okay. And is that a Doe Run requirement or is that a JV contracting requirement?
That is a Doe Run requirement.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about these coveralls. You held up two different pairs. Are those pairs, are they identical?
No, ma'am.
What's the difference between them?
One pair is acid resistant, that's wore on the side where they shred the batteries. The other pair is flame resistant. It's worn on the other side of the plant, we call the refinery side.
Okay. And are there at Doe Run, are there a variety of other types of coveralls?
No, ma'am, just the two types.
And does an outside contractor supply all of the coveralls or jumpsuits or suits, whatever? What do you call them?
We call them coveralls, but
Okay.
yes, an outside contractor supplies those.
Do you know where they get them?
No, ma'am, I do not.
And are they counted and kept track of?
I am not aware if they're counted or not.
Okay. Do you know if they always come from the same manufacturer?
No, ma'am, I'm unaware.
And the gloves, you mentioned the gloves. How about those? Are those also supplied by an outside contractor?
Doe Run orders them and has them shipped into our warehouse inside the plant.
Are they always the same identical gloves?
Yes, ma'am, as long as I've been there, they've been the same brand, same boxes.
Okay. And those, again, do you know where they're manufactured or anything like that? Or
No, ma'am, I
they-
do not.
They just show up.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing special about them. They're used in a lot of different manufacturing, would you think? Or
I would believe so, yes.
okay. And how about the lockers that you showed? Are Doe Run employees assigned a locker?
Yes, they are, not in the same area.
Okay. So the locker room that we saw was, is that just for JV contracting employees?
No, ma'am, it was all contractors, outside contractors that were working for Doe Run.
Okay. How many outside contractors are there at Doe Run?
It varies at any given time.
Okay. And let me see if I understand this. So, somebody working for JV contracting could work there one day and somewhere else another, could work at Doe Run one day, could work on roofing or pouring concrete for building a house or something else for JV contracting another day.
That's correct.
Okay. So, are these employees assigned a specific locker?
Yes, ma'am. If they work at Doe Run on any kind of a consistent basis, they have their own locker assigned to them.
Okay, and if they're not working there for a time period, does someone else use that locker?
If there's no one using that locker at the time, yes. If we have someone else come in, I will assign it to someone else.
Okay, so if someone's there, say, 3 days a week on a regular basis, they get an assigned locker.
That's correct.
But if they're gonna be gone for any period of time, that could be up for grabs by someone else.
That's correct. Usually if I know they're coming back at any given time, I will keep that locker for them though. It's just too big of a hassle to try to get another locker assigned to them.
Are those lockers locked?
They can be, if you can provide your own lock to lock it up, yes.
Okay. But you don't have to, otherwise they're just unlocked?
That's correct.
Now, you mentioned about that it is it the policy of Doe Run or JV Contracting to not take those home, the coveralls?
That is Doe Run.
Okay, but people do take those home to the best of your knowledge.
Yes, ma'am.
What do they use them for?
I would assume just to wear during work hours around the house if they wanted to do some kind of labor to keep their own clothes from getting dirty or getting ruined.
Yard work, painting, roofing, things like that?
I would think so, yes.
Okay. So you were aware in June of 2015 that Mr. Rodgers was going specifically to Florida, is that right?
That's correct.
And you were told one purpose, correct?
Yes.
You were told one purpose.
Thank you.
Okay. Would Mr. Rodgers tell you if he was going off to do side work someplace else?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Was there ever a time where Mr. Rodgers said, "Hey, I got another job where I'm gonna make a little money doing some roofing or something"?
Not to my knowledge, he never said anything like that to me.
Okay. Would other workers normally? Would that be a common thing to tell your boss?
It really couldn't say whether they would or would
Okay.
not.
Okay. Oh, with the clerk. Oh, okay. I just have a second.
Yes, ma'am.
How about the boxes of gloves? Were people allowed to just take a box of gloves?
Yes, ma'am. I keep a box in my locker.
Okay. People take those home too?
I'm assuming they do, yes.
Okay. Just have a moment.
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions.
Mr. Juliet, there are a couple of roadways and highways that run to and from the Doe Run facility.
That's correct.
One of them is Highway 47?
There is a Highway 47, yes.
You ever drive down Highway 47?
I have drove down it before, yes.
Is it common to find the blue Doe Run suits on the side of the road?
No, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No further questions.
Is this witness to be released or retained?
He's released, Your Honor.
No
No
objection.
objection. Okay, you're free to go. Thank you, sir.